Right, no waffle in this video, guys. We're going straight into it. We're going to get started with this. So this is WhatCar have done a piece on the best hybrid cars of 2021. As you know, I'm a little bit on the fence with hybrids. If you want to save on company car tax, or if you do just lots of short journeys, then maybe there's a place for the hybrid. Otherwise, I don't particularly see what that place is because the EV range is very, very low. But as a company car, you know, it's not a bad shout at all. Right, let's get straight down to business. I am just going to rattle through these, guys. I'm really pushed for time today. I've had a hell of a lot going on this week, so bear with me, but I'm just going to rattle through these. By the way, I've just set up a second channel, so go and check that out. I'll put a link up in the corner of the screen. It's called Not a Video Guru, and I'm basically taking what I've learned from my first nearly year on YouTube, things that have gone well, things that haven't gone well, and just sharing it with everyone. And YouTube can be fantastic for you and your business. Obviously, I'm using it as its own thing, but if you've got your own business, it can be an absolutely fantastic tool. So I'll be taking you through setting up a channel, editing videos, lots and lots of stuff around that. It's sort of in the position this channel was getting on for a year ago, where I'd release a video and sort of 2 people would watch it and I'd have 1 subscriber or something. So go over there and join in the fun. Right, so number 10 is the Toyota Corolla VVTi Hybrid. This is your standard old school Toyota hybrid system. So it's not a plug-in. It's much like the Prius system and the system you get in the Lexi, the plural of Lexus. I don't know. Alan Partridge said so. So basically the car is charging itself in theory. It says here the Corolla seats are rear in the back for 6-footers. But I mean, the thing you get with Toyota is you're going to get a fairly decent level of spec in the car. It's not going to let you down. They're just bulletproof, aren't they? You're very unlucky if you get a breakdown with a Toyota. I don't think you see that many of them on the road, these new Corollas, and they're brilliant cars. I don't really know why they're not more popular. Right, the Passat GTE Estate. I actually was going to order one of these as a company car about 4 or 5 years ago, and VW closed the order books because I think it was about the time, well, it might have been longer than that, but I think it was about the time of the emissions scandal, or not long after, and they were about to release this car, and they'd done lots of press for it and stuff. Then you went to order one, and you just couldn't. And I think they realised that they may have done something with some of the figures or something like that, and basically there was a year delay on being able to order one. So I went for something else in the end. But the great thing with this, a lot of the hybrids lose a lot of their boot space because they need to put the battery somewhere. The boot in this thing is so gargantuan that you still had a lot of it left. It's basically a 1.4 petrol engine with about 150 horsepower, mated to the electric motor and the batteries and all that gubbins. And I mean, the electric range on it is not very good. Yeah, the electric range, sorry, I'm completely distracted by that golfer that's just appeared. Good Lord. The electric range is not particularly good, but if you just want a big practical car that's going to save you a few quid on your company car tax, then you can't go far wrong. They're not the most modern, up-to-date interior, but they're massive, they're very comfortable, and as a motorway cruising type car, it's hard to beat in all fairness. Next one's the Ford Cougar PHEV. So I checked out a Cougar at the motor show in the summer, and I was really impressed. I thought they'd really brought the interior spec up a level. Certainly, like the trim and the finish was a lot nicer than it used to be in Fords, and it's not that it was particularly bad before, but I think they've brought it up a level recently. These are really popular. So many people have sent me messages saying that they've just ordered a Cougar after watching one of my videos, or they've recently got a Cougar and stuff like that. And I've probably had more people send me messages saying they've just ordered a Cougar or they're about to order a Cougar than anything else, in fairness. The Cougar went almost 50% farther on electric power than similarly priced plug-in hybrid SUVs in their tests, but it also trounced them when petrol power took over, returning 52 mpg. That's really good as well, considering it's towing around that battery weight. On petrol power alone, it's done 52 mpg. Being a large SUV, large or medium or small? I'd say that's a medium SUV, but there we go. The Cougar gives you a lofty view of the road ahead, and the supple suspension makes it very comfortable both at speed and when trundling around town. BMW 530e. This is a brilliant car, and the hybrid system in it works really well, and I don't think the drive quality is affected particularly by the fact it's got the batteries on board. Later on in this, spoiler alert, but there's a 330es in it as well, and it's basically the same system in both of them. I don't know why they've put far apart, because they're very, very similar cars, and I think the same thing can be said with either of them, where they don't feel particularly hindered by the fact that it's got the extra weight of the plug-in hybrid. What I would say is they both lose quite a lot of boot space. So if you were seriously considering a 530e or a 330e, by all means consider it, because they are brilliant cars. I've driven both and they both perform very, very nicely indeed. But, and there is a but, the boot is much smaller than you would expect. So you need to really go and have a look at one and have a prod around and make sure you could live with it before you go any further. They say here specify it with adaptive suspension for the best ride, and it becomes a supreme luxury package. I mean, they are brilliant cars. Right, next is the Skoda Superb IV. Love the Superb. Think of this as the Passat with a different dress on, if you like. It's essentially the same car, but they do feel quite different. I know there are some cars where they share platforms where you get out of one and into the other. Like if you get out of a Golf and get into a Seat Leon, they're obviously very, very similar. I think with the Skoda Superb and the VW Passat, they have quite a different feel, and I wouldn't say one is particularly better than the other one. They just feel different. And what you do get with the Skoda is, because they're a bit cheaper, you can throw a bit more spec onto it and probably get a little bit more value for money maybe. But I would suggest if you're interested in one of those, then definitely check out the other one, even if it wasn't previously on your radar, because it would sort of be foolish not to. Once again, it's that 1.4 litre petrol engine mated to the hybrid EV technology. It's 34 miles of electric only range. So that's not too bad. I guess if real world you got 26 from that, you got 13 miles to work, 13 miles back. That's going to cover quite a few people with their daily commute. Next is the Audi A340 TFSI-E. I have driven this car, but not this current model. I drove the previous version. And with that one, I felt like it didn't work particularly well as a plug-in hybrid. I'd had a couple of A3s at the time and really loved them. And I felt like the weight of the hybrid system really took away from this car. And you lose a bit of boot space as well, as you do with all of them. But I think it took the Audi A3 boot down to under 300 litres, which I didn't feel was particularly great. Because it's quite a small car, it's not easy to hide that weight so well. So I felt like you've got one of the best handling cars going, and it sort of detracted from it slightly in my mind. That's not so important to everyone, and if you're looking for a compact plug-in hybrid, there aren't too many places to go looking. So there we go. Right, Honda Jazz. I must admit, I didn't know that they even did a hybrid. Obviously, the Jazz has got a bit of a reputation as being an old man's car. The first Jazz, when it came out, if you remember, caused a bit of a stir because it was a small car that had TARDIS-like space inside. And indeed, it still has. I mean, for such a small car, it's amazing how much stuff you can fit into one. You can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things with the seats. And you can have it, you can turn it into more or less a minivan. My late father had one of the original Jazz, and he went to it from a raft of ginormous cars, big Volvo estates and stuff like that. And he absolutely loved it. And I can see why. I would say just if forget about this one for a second, going off on a tangent, if you're looking at an older Jazz, don't ever get an automatic because they are bad news. Okay, number 3 is the BMW X5. That's the xDrive 45e. Now, the thing this has got going for it is kind of the polar opposite of what the Audi has against it, which is it's already huge and heavy. So the extra weight that you put into it from adding the hybrid system can be sort of forgotten about fairly quickly because you can't really feel it in the drive. These will be really popular with company directors with quite a decent company car budget because it's going to perform really well on company car tax for a car of that size. If you've got a standard petrol X5 with reasonable performance and spec, the company car tax is going to be absolutely hideous. I mean, it'd be borderline on abuse, to be honest, where this is going to be quite reasonable. You can't have the 7 seats in this because obviously they have to put the batteries under the boot, so you can't. There's no space for the seats to pop up. But that's the only significant downside. Indeed, it's got a much longer electric range than the rival Volvo XC90 Recharge T8. Far more user-friendly infotainment system, attracts significantly lower company car tax bills. So unless you need those extra seats, it's the better car. I'm looking at this on the WhatCar website, by the way, but also check out the Readly app. I know I've promoted it in some of my other videos, but basically Netflix and magazines. You can go on and get a month's free trial at the moment. Use my link in the description. You can cancel at any time. You can cancel any time within that first month and you won't pay a penny. But just by taking that free trial, it really, really helps the channel out. So please go and do that and show us some love. It's a brilliant app, by the way. Right, number 2 is that BMW 330e, which I mentioned earlier. I won't really go over that other than to say it's got 36 miles of zero emission motoring, which is great. And it is a brilliant car and it's really well put together, but it does have a small boot. Number 1 is the Skoda Octavia IV Estate. Again, quite similar to that Passat Estate version. So it's got a ginormous boot and only 6% company car tax. I mean, this is brilliant. If you're a company car tax driver and you're not yet bought in on EV, or you don't have enough budget to get the EV you want, or you've got too much range anxiety to sort of really buy into an EV right now, this really makes so much sense. I know there's still a bit of badge snobbery around Skoda and it shouldn't exist because they compare really well against the other VW Audi group cars. The Skoda Octavia Estate is brilliant. I mean, it's a fantastic car. It's got a ton of space inside and 6% company car tax. That's hard to argue with. I like that. Skoda's official 282.5 mpg. I mean, there's hopeful and there's BS, and there. Obviously that's the combined electric and petrol combined, but it's never going to get anything like that, let's face it. Anyway, regardless of that, that's a very compelling car if you're a company car driver, and one you should probably think about. And the plug-in hybrid to avoid is the DS7 eTense. What? eTense? I mean, that would make me avoid it for a start. It's just naff. I quite like some of these DS cars actually, but I'm not sure about the eTense. There are some versions of the DS7 Crossback SUV that are worth considering, but the eTense is let down by sloppy handling and a crashy ride, while the integration of its motors and engine is anything but seamless. The sloppy handling and the crashy ride would be because of the extra weight in the car. It's probably changed the centre of gravity, and the integration of motors and engines anything but seamless. So it's probably a bit of an afterthought, the plug-in hybrid, and they haven't done it particularly well. So not much more to say about that, is there? Sorry I've rattled through that one, guys. A bit pushed for time today, but I wanted to get a video out for you this weekend. Please do check out that other channel, and please give the video a thumbs up because I need your thumbs up. So please do that. Let's have a chat in the comments. Let me know what you think. Keep it friendly, won't you? And that's it. Please go and check out this video next because I think you're going to like it. See you next time.